guys, Drago2020 here, and today we're here to talk about speed. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Anyways, let's get right into the video. Alright, so this should be my third time uploading this video, and I am not happy. The first time I uploaded it, it was inadequate. The second time I uploaded it, it was inadequate. So I'm gonna go into what I got wrong later, but first I wanted to go into the Versus Wiki. I do not hate the Versus Wiki. I like the Versus Wiki. It's just I disagree with a couple things. And before making this recording, I went back to check one last time to see what the speed was for the Traveler and the Raiden Shogun. For both the Traveler and the Raiden Shogun, it says sub-relativistic. I disagree with that wholeheartedly for something that I'm going to get into in the part 2 of this video. But I do want you to know that the Traveler and the Raiden Shogun is much faster than this. I go on to prove this later on when I try to talk about the laser stuff. Now let's talk about what I got wrong. I said that the Traveler was faster than the speed of light because of how many times faster he is than lightning. I decided to get rid of this argument because I was playing Mad Max on the PS4 and I saw the exact same game mechanic where you see the lightning before it comes down and then it strikes the ground. I decided to just get rid of this argument entirely. So everything that I said about Daya and the Traveler, you could just ignore it. I used that argument to explain how fast Daya is, and then I scaled Daya to Rosaria and Candace. So you could just throw out this argument. I'll go into their speed whenever I get to them, but it'll be in a different way. What I'm about to play you is the original video, but I cut out things that I don't agree with anymore. Oh, and one more thing. Everything that I said about the Versus Wiki is no longer true as of version 4.7, and the date is 6/25/24. All that was said a long time ago when they described the characters to be hypersonic. At least it's closer to what I think it is now. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we get into the video. So now that this is out of the way, let's get right into the video. Sup everyone, Future Drago2020 here, and here's the deal. I'm redoing this video and uploading it because I just got done looking through the Versus Wiki to see how powerful characters like the Traveler and people who skill through the Traveler are, and I just saw some things that are just blatantly wrong. So I had to redo this because I'm basically going against the Versus Wiki. And I originally said that the Traveler was light speed just off of the lightning dodge speed, but I realized that's not going to be enough. So I went through and found every instance of a light speed attack in the game, and I'm going to list them here. Now, let's start with the attacks that are called a laser. Lasers are light beams. Why? Well, laser is an acronym. It stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. We will also be going off of the word beam. For example, there's going to be an enemy that launches an attack that's a beam of energy. The definition of beam is a ray or shaft of light. Even something like a radio signal or a broadcast. So whenever someone says like a beam of fire or a beam of water, they're using the term to compare how fast the water and fire is being spewed out to light, which is really fast, but it's a hyperbole. So when I say beam here, it's specifically a ray or shaft of light. So now that I got that out of the way, let's start listing. Alright, before we get started, I was struggling to find these light speed feats, so I decided to look at the enemies and the type of attack they launch at the Traveler, and I managed to not only find a bunch of light speed attacks, but I also found a trend. And most of the light speed attacks in game come from something that is A, supposed to protect something on the divine level, B, something on the divine level, or C, something alien. that's not of this world. I want to make a statement on the general progression of the story and how the traveler is portrayed as it goes on. First, at the beginning of the story, he fights this unknown deity, and he gets sealed away for 500 years. Then it is stated that he has to go around Tevat looking for his sister or her brother, depending on who you pick, and at the same time having to reclaim most of the strength that was lost due to time. And gaining the elements would help with that. So the first thing he gets is Animal, right? And the first thing he fights is the right hand of one of the deities in Tevat, which is the Valen. He doesn't beat him, but he does fight him to the point where he's able to remove that pimple that is on the back of his head that's corrupting him. Then we go into Leeway, where that whole story is that Leeway can exist without a deity, and they prove this by defeating something that a deity would be required in order to defeat. Then we go to the Inazuman arc, where the traveler has to fight a deity. He doesn't beat the deity, but he's able to fight the deity. Then we go over to Sumeru, where the Wanderer wanted to become a deity or an Archon, and he constructed a mech to meet the base requirements so he can become an Archon, and he had a Gnosis. At that point of the story, you could call him an Archon. He definitely called himself an Archon, and he defeated him. Though it was with the help of Nahida, he still did it. Nahida provided no, aside from her showing him how the Wanderer fights. After that, the traveler did all of the heavy lifting afterwards, aside from Shrine of Maya stuff, of course. Now we're here in Fontaine, and the traveler is directly confronting an Archon again. They are seen as equals, based off the dialogue. What I'm getting at here is that even if you don't believe that he's getting faster, he is getting stronger. The story is working the traveler up to fight that lady in the beginning, or that deity, so to speak, so that when he eventually finds his sister, he can fight that person. The only thing we can do is speculate, because there hasn't been any statements explaining the traveler's speed. So I don't think it's accurate to say that the traveler doesn't get faster. First, I'm going to start with the outlier, because it's straight up called a laser, and that is the Rune Grade. It launches 2 attacks. It's called Brush Off Attack, and there's a certain attack that it launches when it's paralyzed that involves it shooting its laser, and it does physical damage. It doesn't do electro damage or pyro damage, and that's important because usually when electro or pyro is used, they have a specific color, and you can see like a certain color damage number attributed to it. It's specifically physical damage, so it's not an element. So this is a light beam. Next up, we got the Mirror Maiden. She launches an attack called Rippled Reflection. She basically summons a bunch of mirrors that reflect a laser at the traveler. In the animation, you can actually see the beam of light moving. In order for this to be a thing, the traveler would have to be able to perceive things moving at the speed of a laser, or the speed of light. A laser is a light beam. Also, on a quick side note, if you want to apply the this looks like that, so therefore that might be this, Kaching and Alhaitham, their bursts look very similar to this. So you could say that Alhaitham uses lasers from a device or from his vision, I don't know what he uses. And Kaching, she just straight up turns herself into a laser beam that's made up of electron. Also, while she's traveling across the field at this blinding speed, she's creating electro clones of herself. They don't really attack, they just dash in towards the center of where she's been dashing around, or the field where she's been dashing around. But that basically proves that she's able to perceive things at the speed of light and fight at the speed of light. She also travels in the form of a light beam in her elemental skill. So whenever she says speed of light, that's actually accurate. She is the speed of light. Confirmed. There's 3 more important ones that I want to talk about, and that is Primal Construct Prospector, where it shoots a light beam. You can actually see the light beam traveling towards you. Golden Wolf Lord, his attack is literally called Laser Beam. And finally, the Wanderer, when he was in his mech form, when he was trying to be an Archon, he shoots a laser. It is confirmed to be a laser. The Golden Wolf Lord is some kind of deity from another world, so it's alien, and it is seen as a deity. And the Wanderer created the mech to become a deity. Since the Wanderer knows all about that, he would have the mech built to meet the basic standards. This is extremely important because in one of the quests where the Wanderer went back in time and fought himself, the fake Wanderer launched a laser beam at the Traveler. The Wanderer saw it in slow motion, got a "I need to protect my friends" amp, and then blitzed both the Traveler and the laser at the same time and stopped it. And he literally did like a JoJo pose afterwards. So either he was trying to look cool or that was a casual light speed feat. And finally, not all lasers are the same. Depending on the power source, the laser could be more powerful than the rest. So the most powerful laser that I have right now that I could find is the Wanderer when he was an Archon, and the weakest is probably the Primal Construct. Alright, so let's apply these feats to cutscenes and in-game lore. There have been 2 occasions where an ally fighting alongside the Traveler had to stop a blitz attempt that was going to seriously damage the Traveler. That is when he was fighting the Wanderer when he was an Archon, and when the Raiden Shogun made a blitz attempt at him after he left the palace where the Raiden Shogun lives. If you apply this situation looks like that situation, so these 2 might be similar. Both the laser and the Raiden Shogun were moving at the speed of light. But the thing is, we know exactly how fast the Raiden Shogun and A are, and we know that A was holding back when she was making that blitz attempt. We don't know if the mech the Wanderer was fighting in was holding back. And in my initial recording for this, I said that A and the Raiden Shogun do not scale to the Traveler at all because they scale far above them. Before we move on, I want to move on to specific elements that buff speed. Let's start with Anemo. Anemo does buff speed, but it's to the base speed. It doesn't buff a character like Electro. And I'm going to put on screen every instance where it increases either normal attack speed or travel speed or the speed of cooldowns. And what I think this is implying is that Anemo makes the character a lot more efficient in combat, meaning that they don't make unnecessary moves, so they can rebound from a specific move right into the next one, while at the same time being imbued by their element, making their attacks faster and more precise. It also increases stamina, so it allows the user to fight for longer at a high level for a longer period of time. Then there's Electro, who buffs it to an extreme degree. It buffs speed in many different ways. For one, when a character turns into specifically Electro, they're turning into an arc of electricity. There are certain characters, they don't just turn into an arc of electricity, they turn into a straight up light beam, i.e. Kaching. It does buff base speed just like Anemo. The difference is it's faster, but it's a lot less efficient. You don't get the stamina boost that you get from having an Anemo vision or being filled with Anemo. When Kazuha gained the power of Electro, he was able to stop a blitz attempt from the Raiden Shogun, and that's super impressive. I don't think he would have been able to do that if he didn't have both Anemo and Electro having his base speed buffed and then having an extra multiplier on top of that, while at the same time having the speed buff of having 2 elements in him at the same time. And I want to state this, if I haven't said it already, each time the Traveler gains an element, he does get faster, because he's reawakening the strength that he lost when he lost to that lady in the beginning of the story, and he's getting new power on top of that. On screen, I'm going to put up every instance where Anemo either buffs travel speed or combat speed or speed in general. And I'm also going to put up, right about now, every instance where there's attack speed or movement speed increase in the characters not Anemo. And what I'm going to show is how inconsistent it is when it's not Anemo, and how consistent it is when it is Anemo. What this will show is that all elements can increase normal attack speed and travel speed, but Anemo does it the best and is the most consistent. So he's able to fight at bare minimum the speed of light, or 6 2/3 faster than the speed of light. Now let's talk about some of the stronger characters in the game besides the Traveler. Take what I said for the Traveler and then multiply that by 3 or 4 times. The Raiden Shogun is much stronger than the Traveler. Like, he did not legitimately win that fight at all. And the same could be applied to Zhongli. The Traveler fought A before she had that power jump when she started getting connected to the sword in that separate dimension. So A and Zhongli, they actually closely scale. So the same speed that I said for A, you can apply to Zhongli. In my initial tier list, I ranked A above Zhongli because of that 500-year time skip that she had when she was fighting in that separate dimension against her clone. She was able to power up and then rival the speed and power of her clone after her clone transformed. And A has that transformation that the clone used. So that 3 or 4 times increase that I said that you could apply to A or Zhongli, that's an extreme low ball for A. You can apply that 3 to 4 times to the Shogun in Zhongli, but not to A. I actually think she's 7 or 8 times faster than what I said the Traveler was, meaning they do not scale to each other at all. They're in completely different levels. As for the slowest characters in the game, take someone like Barbara or Chi-Chi. They're just below the speed of sound. And Mika, who I said is the weakest, isn't even close to what I just said for them. He's probably just as fast as that crossbow that he uses. Now, there's another thing that characters in Genshin Impact can do to increase their speed, and that is turning themselves into their element and then rocketing themselves towards a specific direction. For example, when Catalyst users do their plunging attack, that's pretty much what they're doing right there. And Fischl, she pretty much does the most advanced version of this. She turns into a specific animal that she uses to fight alongside her, and she propels herself not just across the battlefield but across the landscape. So she can quite literally go anywhere she wants. Now, this doesn't directly increase their speed, but it's extremely dangerous to fight against, and that is teleportation. In my initial tier list, I talked about teleportation and I ranked people who could do it very high. There's a character that seems to be able to do it extremely well, and that is Keqing. Keqing is one of the fastest characters in the game that's not an Archon. Not only does she rocket herself around the battlefield, like how I explained earlier, on her elemental skill, she just straight up teleports to one of the marked locations if you don't do a charge attack. To give you a good example on how Keqing fights, think Minato, the Yellow Flash. Now, is she as fast as Minato? Probably not. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that she's not as fast as Minato, like at all. But if you want a good idea on how she does fight, that's a pretty good example. Alright, that's gonna do it. Thank you for watching. My next video is gonna be on power, so stay tuned to that. If you have any suggestions on what you want to see, let me know. I'll take note of it, and in the near future, I'll get it to you. So, as always, have a wonderful day.